Welcome back, Lumberjacks. Welcome to the Season 3 preview episode. I have had retention issues throughout the series, so I wanted to accumulate all of my game planning into one episode. So in future episodes during Season 3, I can completely skip the scouting report portion of the episode that would typically take up to 5-8 minutes of the first of the episodes. I will just have a graphic pop up at the beginning, and if you are interested in reading it, you can pause. I will also be skipping recruiting and do a separate recruiting episode at the mid-season point after 6 games. This is the way that I will put more of the focus on the actual gameplay because not everyone is interested in scouting the upcoming opponent and the recruiting. So the first game of the season consists of the Lumberjacks traveling to South Bend to take on the best team they have ever played. The Lumberjacks actually opened the season with 3 straight road games. This one will probably have us feeling like we picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue. Philosophically, Notre Dame is looking to run a pistol offense, leaning a little bit more to the run paired with aggressive play calling, and we could also see some sprinkles of a multiple offense. Personnel-wise, the Fighting Irish are absolutely loaded. The Lumberjacks must put all their preparation and work into figuring out how to stop Notre Dame's deadly senior duo in the backfield. Number 5, Robert Whitaker, a 99 overall quarterback, and number 3, Terrence Young, a 98 overall running back. Notre Dame pairs this talent in their backfield with great talent across the offensive line and the receivers. The expectation is that Notre Dame will run a lot of power run mixed in with play action and read option to keep the Lumberjacks defense off balance. The Lumberjacks run a 4-2-5 defense, which is heavily predicated and built upon stopping the passing game. The Lumberjacks lack the talent up front to battle the Notre Dame offensive line. The Lumberjacks will need to switch to conservative tackle and make sure they are getting the star quarterback and running back on the ground. The Lumberjacks will need to get penetration with their front four, and whether it is getting pressure on the quarterback or collapsing running lanes, which will allow the Lumberjacks safeties to stay in the base cover 2 defense, the cornerbacks not needing to press. The Lumberjacks defensive line needs to eat up blocks to allow their speedy linebackers to play sideline to sideline as well. The matchup to watch is Amaretto versus Terrence Young. On the other side of the ball, the Lumberjacks will have a tough time contending with the Notre Dame defense. The Fighting Irish will most likely be running a 34 defense in base packages mixed with 43 looks, led by their 95 overall middle linebacker, Bobby Pugh. The Fighting Irish will be able to run any defense effectively as they are strong up front and fantastic in the back 7. The Lumberjacks will try to establish a running game, but ultimately the game will be decided by Colt Plaster's arm. The Irish run an ultra-aggressive 34 defense that will consist of a lot of blitzes out of zone and man packages, with the focus of their defense being stopping the run. Plaster will need to come out and get in rhythm, and the Lumberjacks will desperately need to maintain balance in their offense while having long time-consuming drives to keep the Irish off the field. So the second game of the season is against Texas. No better way to follow up Notre Dame than to play in-state competition for bragging rights. The second game in the 3-road game stretch to open the season, the Lumberjacks travel to Austin, Texas to play the Longhorns. On offense, the Longhorns will run a spread air raid offense that looks to maintain balance between the running and passing games, and this offensive tack will most likely be no huddle. Their 99 overall running back, Rick Anderson, leads the way for the Horns offense and will most likely be the player that Lumberjacks must focus on stopping to have any chance. The Longhorns do have the capability to be balanced with their 93 overall quarterback, Joe Fry, and a loaded wide receiver corps and a highly touted tight end that can attack the middle of the field. The Longhorns can achieve this potential balance due to an NFL caliber offensive line that has 5 starters above 80 rating and that has NFL scouts drooling, specifically left tackle Brandon Washington. The major matchups to watch would be Amaretto versus Anderson and the Lumberjacks' entire defensive line versus the Longhorns' strong offensive line. Defensively, the Horns run an aggressive 4-3 base defense with potential for 3-4 looks. Much like Notre Dame, Texas is strong at all 3 levels, especially at middle linebacker and outside linebacker with Joe Brady and Donald Robinson. The Texas front 4 has the potential to be dangerous and difficult to deal with, which gives their linebackers space to eat. The Texas secondary is also strong and will present a challenge to form a passing game. The most significant matchup to watch is DeMarcus Williams, our freshman left our freshman left tackle, and the rest of the Lumberjacks offensive line versus the Texas defensive line. If the Lumberjacks can get the running game going, they can continue to run like a well-oiled machine, much like they did last season. For the Lumberjacks to stand a chance, they will need to come out and get the running game going. Most likely, much like the Notre Dame game, Colt Plaster's arm will be the determining factor in whether the Lumberjacks stand a chance. Plaster will need to be well prepared, ready to audible out of bad looks, and will need to be accurate in the short passing game. Screen passes will need to be utilized to counteract the Longhorns' blitzing defense. The Lumberjacks' typical offense, which includes a balanced offense that is efficient and consumes a lot of time, will need to be present in this football game for the Lumberjacks to stand a chance. The Lumberjacks' defense will need to tackle well in the open field and will need to get multiple bodies to the football, which means the Jacks will have to play fast. The Lumberjacks will need to get an effective pass rush going on obvious third down passing situations, as the Longhorns have a significant advantage against the Jacks' secondary. In previous seasons, the Lumberjacks have fared well against spread offenses, so the Lumberjacks should go into this game more confident than usual in comparison to the Notre Dame game at least. The third game up is the final game in this 3-game road stretch, and it's against the USF Bulls, Stephen F. Austin's first conference game in the newly drafted Mountain West Conference. Although USF is the weakest of the 3 games to open the season, this team is no slouch. Offensively, the Bulls will be running a tough-to-defend, balanced, multiple offense that allows the Bulls to attack with a bunch of different looks and formations. Play action can be expected to be paramount to the Bulls' success on offense, as the Bulls will tend to be aggressive. The Bulls have a solid scrambling quarterback, Luke Kirby, which will force the Jacks into putting a spy out or utilizing QB contain, which could severely limit the Jacks' pass rush. The connection between Kirby and the dangerous wide receiver McKinley Hayward will be the threat to watch for the Lumberjacks defense, as well as the senior tight end, Kevin Smith. The Bulls have a starting freshman left tackle, and attacking him with blitzes will be paramount in limiting the time Kirby has in the pocket. The rest of the Bulls' offensive line is relatively strong, especially the right side of their offensive line. Defensively, the Bulls will look to run an attacking style 4-3 base defense that looks to run blitz and force their opponents into a one-dimensional offense. The Bulls' run blitzing attack will be led by their all-star defensive tackle Todd Sims, who will look to penetrate the Lumberjacks' interior offensive line and disrupt the running game that carries the Lumberjacks' offense. The Bulls' defensive line is strong up the middle with 2 fantastic defensive tackles, but has weaknesses and inexperience at the end spots that can be exploitable. The DL, the defensive line, hopes to eat up blocks to allow their speedy linebackers to run sideline to sideline, and these linebackers are definitely good enough to take away an outside running game. The Bulls secondary is very solid and will be difficult to exploit, as it has both talent and depth at all the spots in the secondary. The Lumberjacks will need to run the football in this one to stand a chance, as the Bulls are exploitable on the edges. The offensive line will need to successfully open up holes and pull across the formation to get cell blocks to spring the Jacks running backs. The option game will be especially important in this one, as the Lumberjacks will want to keep the Bulls' defense off balance and confused. The passing game will still be important, but isn't as exploitable as the run defense. On defense, the Lumberjacks will want to consistently attack the freshman left tackle with blitzes and a rotation of rushers, which will include both Isidore and Skyler. The Lumberjacks will need to keep Kirby from getting comfortable in the pocket and will need to consistently bring heat to keep Kirby from hitting his big wide receiver and tight end. Because the right side of the offensive line for the Bulls is so strong, Darren Robinson will most likely see a lot of time and spy duties, controlling the ability for Kirby to scramble around. In this one, we could end up seeing the former middle linebacker and current starting defensive tackle, Rodney Young, receiving spy duties as well. In the 4th game of the season, and the first game in a 4-game home stretch, and the first home game of the season for the Lumberjacks will take on Northwestern State in Nacogdoches for the biggest recruiting week and the first home game of the season. This could potentially be the final game of the series of the battle for the Caddo, as the Lumberjacks have won 2 games in a row against the Demons and are looking for a 3rd straight victory. Because the Demons are not in the same conference anymore, the Lumberjacks could feel like they have outgrown their little brother after another victory. Offensively, the Demons run a spread offense that is predominantly focused on passing the ball and looks to be slightly more aggressive. This offense is led by Don Canyon, who gave the Lumberjacks issues in 2014. Before the Lumberjacks adjusted, the Demons did give the Jacks the business in the running game, so the Jacks have to be prepared to slow down the running game and make the Demons one-dimensional. The weak wide receiver corps that the Demons possess did give the Jacks issue last season, so it will be important for the Jacks secondary to play well. Although the Demons' offensive line is not the most talented, they are very experienced, with 4 out of the 5 starters being seniors. Defensively, the Demons will run a balanced 4-3 defense. The strength of this defense is right up the middle, where 2 of the best players on this defense are the defensive tackles. The defensive ends are very young and potentially exploitable for the Lumberjacks, and the Demons linebackers are not strong enough to deter a commitment to the running game. This is the first game all season where the Lumberjacks might actually have an advantage in the passing game, as the wide receivers for the Lumberjacks are more talented than anyone in the secondary for the Demons. So game plan, Lumberjacks will want to come out and feed Gus and McDougal, attacking the lack of experience and talent at defensive end and linebacker for the Demons with a lot of option looks, jet sweeps, power O's, stretches, dives. This will allow the Lumberjacks to set up play action to take deep shots to Mosley and Bearden. The Jacks defense will need to control the running game and win the line of scrimmage and force the Demons into a one-dimensional offense, which will be predicated on how well the Lumberjacks offense is performing. Force Don Canyon to sit in the pocket and make the right read while rushing the passer with a solid rotation of pass rushers. This is the way. The Lumberjacks, most importantly, must not overlook the Demons. From a talent perspective, the Lumberjacks do have the advantage. In the second of a 4-game home stretch, the Lumberjacks welcome the Auburn Tigers, a team that the Lumberjacks have played over the last 2 seasons, and the series is split so far. And it's a team that is, again, a conference foe. This is the second conference game through the first half of the season. Auburn, if you remember from last season, runs a no-huddle spread offense that is very running back centric. The running back had over 10 receptions in the game against the Lumberjacks last season, which included a bevy of screen passes. The Tigers will look to be slightly aggressive and attack the weaknesses in the Lumberjacks secondary with their star quarterback Dwayne Hudson and the assortment of weapons he has at wide receiver and tight end. John Swain, the running back, is no slouch and can hurt the Lumberjacks with 91 speed and 93 excel, and we can expect him to get a ton of touches in the running and passing games like last season's game. Other than at center, the Tigers have a high overall offensive line with bookend senior tackles and a solid interior. Defensively, the Tigers will run a slightly aggressive 4-3 defense. The Tigers are loaded in the front 7 and are not exploitable anywhere, and the same could be said for their cornerbacks and strong safety. The Tigers' free safety is extremely exploitable. Number 26, Jason Curtis. He is going to get a lot of looks. In this football game, the Lumberjacks will have to be prepared to throw the ball around the yard and specifically target the side of the field that the free safety occupies. This game will most likely have to be won with Plaster's arm, but establishing a semblance of a running game will be important to prevent being one-dimensional. On defense, the Lumberjacks will be prepared to get after the quarterback, but be wary of the screen passes. Auburn loved running it, especially on third downs. The Tigers run a very running back-centric offense, so the Lumberjacks will have to key on Swain. Because Auburn is so talented across the line of scrimmage and at the skill positions, the Lumberjacks will most likely have to sit back and cover 2 and hope to get pressure with just the front 4. In the third game in this home stretch, the Oregon State Beavers will travel to Nacogdoches in a Mountain West Conference showdown. The Beavers look to run a balanced multiple offense that leans more aggressive, run through number 24, the running back Donald Seymour. Seymour is a dangerous player with the potential to take the top off the defense with 91 speed and 94 excel, but also has the ability to juke and elude defenders and to catch out of the backfield. Paired with this potential NFL running back, the Beavers have a solid quarterback in Shelton Hawkins. Solid wide receivers on the outside that could cause the Lumberjacks issues, and a solid tight end. The offensive line appears to be exploitable but also experienced, with 2 seniors and 3 juniors manning the 5 starting spots. Defensively, the Beavers will run an aggressive 43 base. The strength of this defense appears to be the back 7, with most of the highest rated players on the defense located at linebacker and safety. The highest rated player, the free safety, Michael Robinson, makes the NFL scouts, drool with the ability to impact the game playing center field. The Lumberjacks should have the opportunity to establish a running game against an average front four and build off of that with play-action deep shots that avoid Robinson. The game plan is definitely to feed Gus and McDougal and utilize option looks with Plaster. The Lumberjacks defense will be challenged, but should focus on slowing down Seymour. Because Oregon State will be running multiple formations, the Lumberjacks should expect to play a lot of 34 looks, so the Lumberjacks must defeat blocks and win the line of scrimmage, and they must tackle in the open field and get as many bodies to the ball as possible. It is of superb importance the Lumberjacks do get pressure on passing downs to prevent the Beavers' strong receivers and tight end from making a significant impact. The final game in this 4-game home stretch has the Broncos of Western Michigan traveling to Nacogdoches for a Mountain West Conference battle. Offensively, the Broncos run a semi-aggressive power run pro-style scheme. The Broncos have the potential to strike deep, however, via play action. Thanks to talented wideout John Ratliff, who is probably Corey Davis in real life. Number 23, Corey Goins, the starting sophomore running back, is the player the offense will feed through. Goins has dangerous speed, and the Lumberjacks will need to take him away and force the 77 overall quarterback, Eric White, to beat them. The Broncos also have a decent enough offensive line to establish their power run game. Defensively, the Broncos will run an attacking 43 defense that will focus on stopping the run first. The Broncos don't necessarily have the most talented front seven, but appear to have a talented cornerback and free safety. Game plan: the Lumberjacks might struggle to establish a running game, as the Broncos will be bringing a lot of run blitzes to slow down the Jack running attack. This is a game where Plaster will need to get in rhythm early and throw it often, preferably short passes across the middle and screen passes. The Lumberjacks will need to avoid the talented starting cornerback and will need to focus on attacking the strong safety and the other starting cornerback on the field, as well as the Bronco linebackers. Defensively, the Lumberjacks defensive line will need to win up front, eat blocks, penetrate, and cause havoc, allowing Luke and Amaretto to play sideline to sideline and get to the running back before he gains steam. The Broncos will look to establish the running game, and it is of vital importance the Lumberjacks tackle in the open field. If the running game is slowed down, it will force Eric White to beat them, which means that John Ratliff will become a dangerous threat. It is important that the Lumberjacks double cover or play cover 2 to take away Ratliff. Overall, the Lumberjacks have the talent advantage, and they must show this. This is the 3rd game in the series against Southern Miss, as the Lumberjacks travel to Hattiesburg. Last season, the Lumberjacks were able to dominate and win in Nacogdoches. The Golden Eagles will look to run an aggressive no-huddle, run-heavy pistol offense led by their backfield quarterback Ryan Simpson and running back Ryan Sapp. These two players gave the Lumberjacks issues in the past 2 matchups. Unlike many of the other opponents thus far in this season, the Golden Eagles are not as big a threat in the passing game, as they don't have excessive talent at wide receiver. However, they do have a good duo of tight ends. Along the offensive line, there are 3 seniors out of the 5 starters at center and along the left side. The right guard appears to be the weakness of the offensive line. Defensively, they look to run an attacking 43 scheme that will look to take away the run game first, past a strong right end, Jason Walters. The Eagles do not have a strong front 7. They also do not have a lot of talent in the back end. The game plan for this one is for the Lumberjacks to come out and impose their will on both sides of the ball. Offensively, even though the Golden Eagles are looking to take away the running game, the Lumberjacks should come out and try and punch Southern Miss in the mouth with Gus and McDougal. The Lumberjacks should match up well with this front 7. The Lumberjacks should be able to build up to play action, deep shots, as the matchup against their back end is much more manageable than previous matchups this season. The matchup to watch is DeMarcus Williams versus the best player on the Eagles defense, Jason Walters. Defensively, the Lumberjacks will need to focus on stopping Simpson and Sapp. The Lumberjacks will need to have quarterback spies ready in situations where Simpson takes off with the ball, but they must tackle Sapp at first contact to prevent him from gaining steam. Sapp and Simpson can beat the Jacks. The 9th game of the season and Battle of the Piney Woods again. The Lumberjacks return to Reliant Stadium to play the Bearcats of Sam Houston State in the battle for the Piney Woods. In last season's matchup, the Jacks struggled to get their running game going, and Attaway struggled to hit the broadside of a barn. Plaster came in during the second half and sparked the Lumberjacks to victory with multiple long touchdown passes. The Bearcats run the tough to defend, aggressive pass-heavy multiple offense. The player to watch is Chance Nelson, wide receiver. John Outlaw, the quarterback, is a scramble-first quarterback. Defensively, the Bearcats will implement an aggressive, balanced, multiple defense, allowing them to match up well against the multiple formations that the Lumberjacks run. The best player on this defense is the strong safety, number 38, Tevin Creeks. Past Creeks, the Bearcats are weak in the front seven and in the back end. In last season's football game, the Bearcats did a great job at slowing the running game of the Jacks. The Lumberjacks should come out passing, get Plaster in rhythm, and take deep shots. The Jacks were very successful with Plaster throwing the deep ball against the secondary. It will be important to try and run the ball, but Plaster will have to win this one with his arm. The Lumberjacks defense must be prepared to play quarterback spy and take away Chance Nelson with double coverage and cover 2 looks. In the 10th game of the season, the Lumberjacks return home to welcome the tough, ranked Tar Heels. This will be an essential conference game and will probably play a significant role in the competition for the Mountain West Conference East Division. Offensively, the Tar Heels run a balanced, no-huddle, aggressive pro-style offense. The balance to this offense will give the Lumberjacks many problems as the Tar Heels have talent across the board, especially at wide receiver with Brian Turner leading the way. Terrence Jacques, the starting quarterback, is a pure pocket passer and has the potential to dime up the Lumberjacks secondary. North Carolina also has a star in Brian Tucker, and the Lumberjacks are challenged to also keep tabs on him and make sure they are tackling him in the open field. Past Brian Turner, they are talented and loaded at wide receiver. The Tar Heels have a very solid, good, experienced offensive line with 3 seniors and 2 juniors. The Tar Heels run a very similar 4-2-5 defense to the Lumberjacks that looks to defend the run and be attacking. They have a solid front 6 with an all-star at outside linebacker and Brandon Peterson. The strengths of this defense is definitely in the back 5, which will make this particular 4-2-5 defense hard to deal with. The Lumberjacks must be able to run the ball against this front 6, but must also be prepared with the screen game to counteract the blitzes that will come out of the 4-2-5 defense. The 4-2-5 defense is hard to read, and thus Plaster will be prone to mistakes. Gus and McDougal will need to carry the offense to success. Defensively, the Lumberjacks have their work cut out for them as the Tar Heels will be balanced and will be able to attack in a multitude of ways due to their talent at the skill positions and experience across the offensive line. The Lumberjacks need to get pressure on the pocket passing quarterback. No need for a spy and with no blitzing. The Jacks have to sit back in coverage and make sure they control the talented wide receiver corps of the Tar Heels. In the final regular season conference game, the Lumberjacks travel to Champaign, Illinois to take on the Illini. The Illini run a balanced, slightly aggressive pro-style offense. The star of the offense is at running back with Brandon Allen, who has the potential to burn the Lumberjacks defense with blazing speed. Overall, this offense is very senior-laden and experienced. The quarterback, Jamara Johnson, is a scrambler but has the potential to throw the football all over the Lumberjacks defense. They have talent at wide receiver and tight end, and they have a solid offensive line that can open up holes for Brandon Allen. The Illini defensive scheme consists of an aggressive, run-focused 43 defense. The defense, much like the offense, is very senior-laden and has a lot of experience. They have talent in the front 7 led by middle linebacker Jordan McDougal. They have a lot of talent and depth at cornerback and free safety, but they are exploitable at strong safety. The Lumberjacks will have to try and maintain balance against a very balanced defense. Keep the Illini defense off balance. The Illini will look to take away the Jacks' running game, so it is important for Plaster to stay in rhythm and maintain accuracy. The Lumberjacks will want to keep the Illini offense off the field by maintaining long, time-eating drives. Defensively, the Lumberjacks will be challenged with a star running back, solid quarterback, and wide receivers, and an experienced offensive line. The Lumberjacks will need to win up front, tackle well, and cover the wide receivers effectively. In the final game of the regular season, Lumberjacks take on the number 4 ranked Texas A&M Aggies in the 3rd matchup in as many seasons, this time in Nacogdoches. The Aggies have dominated the Lumberjacks in the last 2 matchups. Texas A&M still has 99 overall Terrence Coker, also known as Johnny Manziel, who stayed until his senior season. Lumberjacks have struggled to contain Coker in this Texas A&M aggressive, no-huddle, run-heavy pistol offense. Paired with Coker is another familiar foe, Julius Jefferson, the star running back. The Aggies also have abundant talent at wide receiver and a young but talented tight end. Along the offensive line, the lowest rated player is the right tackle at 88 overall. The Aggies' offensive line is loaded and experienced with 3 seniors and 2 juniors. Defensively, the Aggies run an attacking 43 defense that will look to take away the run. The front four is as good as any team the Lumberjacks have faced all season, with an absolute stud at left end in Jonathan Brown, possibly Myles Garrett, and this is paired with a very solid back seven. The Lumberjacks will have their work cut out as the Aggies overmatch the Jacks on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Probably the best way for the Lumberjacks to attack is to be pass first, as the 2 previous matchups did not fare well with a focus on running the ball. Plaster must get in rhythm and must be accurate. Defensively, the first goal is to control Coker, keep him from running out of the pocket, and keep receivers covered like a blanket. This is the only way the Jacks stand a chance. Now let's preview the Lumberjacks for the upcoming season, and let's look at the best recruiting board the Lumberjacks have had thus far. So at starting quarterback, we have Colt Plaster with Minden backing him up. At running back, obviously, we have Gus Johnson, but we have McDougal backing Gus up, and they're actually going to be rotating a lot. We're going to get both a lot of touches. Gus will dominantly get most of the touches on first and second down, but McDougal is a much better receiver out of the backfield. 67 catch, 71 spec catch, 74 catch in traffic, 72 route running. He's much better out of the backfield, so I'll probably have him come in on third downs. And there's going to be a rotation regardless, so both those guys will get a lot of touches. We got our boy Desquarius Green. He's going to be making an impact as a blocker. He won't hit up the stat sheet too much, but we'll be having a good lead fullback. At wide receiver, it's weak, but we have Mosley and Bearden, and that's going to be the focus of our passing game. We don't want to rely on these guys next year, so hopefully we bring in some additional talent, and wide receiver is definitely one of the focal points of the recruiting class. Tight end, we do need tight ends, and that's another focus. Boyd is a senior. He's a blocker. He's not a receiver. He's a super intelligent guy with 99 awareness, but I'm looking forward to using him. Desquarius Green, he's playing double duty. He's playing fullback and tight end. And then we have freshman DeMarcus Williams at left tackle, 69 overall, 92 excel. I've already talked about him. I really like his potential. Left guard, we have Brian Wright, the transfer. He's probably going to be one of the best players on our team here in a couple seasons when he's a senior. At center, we have Kolschel. He's a senior. Right guard, we have Newbie. He's going to be graduating, and then we'll have the new guy. His name is Skowish Velociraptor. That is the starter for next year. And at right tackle, we have Ratliff, the senior. We're losing a lot of players on offense, and offensive line, wide receiver, tight end. Those are the focal points. We already have our franchise quarterback for the next 4 years in Wilson. We need to build up our offensive line a little bit more, add some receivers for sure, and then add a tight end as well. Defensively, it's pretty much the same defensive line, except we lost Maddox and gained Young. So Darren Robinson, left end, Isidore, right end. Skylar will be rotating in at both D spots. Defensive tackle, we have Trevor Murphy, and then we have the former middle linebacker. He's very small, but he's going to bring an impact in terms of the pass rush. He'll bring an impact in that regard, and he's a senior, so we'll be losing both of our defensive tackles. Defensive tackle obviously is a focal point for our recruiting, and defensive end too. We could use a couple more defensive ends. At outside linebacker, we have Marvin Gray. I don't think he's going to play very much, except in like 3-4 looks. Middle linebacker, we have Amaretto. No surprise. And right outside linebacker, we have Joshua Luke, the transfer from Baylor, I believe. 85 speed, 85 excel. I'm looking forward to playing with this guy. That's a lot of speed at linebacker. Cornerback, we're pretty experienced on the outside. Martell Gibbs is our best cornerback. But Valier, no slouch. He's a senior now, and he has a lot of experience. He has 93 awareness. He could potentially be our best player or best secondary player, I should say. Luca Samuels, one of our guys from last year's recruiting class. He'll actually be starting. Luca at strong safety, but he's also the nickel back too. Then Megamac and Xmas Jackson Flaxen Waxen round out the cornerbacks. free safety, Tyrone Biggums, Mega Mac backing him up. And then at strong safety, we're relatively weak there after this season, so we definitely need to look for a strong safety to take his spot. But Chris Bailey and then Lucas Samuels backing him up, along with Mega Mac too. And then we have Martell Gibbs returning kicks, and we have Bearden returning punts. So as you see, we're focused on 7 wide receivers right now. I added this guy from Scott, Louisiana, 77 overall, William Sims. I like his potential. He's a 93 speed, 91 excel, 75 catch, 86 route running, 70 spectacular catch, and 70 catch in traffic. The negative is he's a JUCO, so he won't be around a long time, but he's a 3-star wide receiver. We definitely need that guy, and he would be an impact player for us right away. As you see, a lot of focus being put on receiver. We also have 4 tight ends as of right now. At defensive end, this dude looks like he's going to be a monster, and hopefully we can jump up and compete for this guy, because 77 speed, 85 excel, 80 strength, 80 power moves, 76 finesse, 79 block shed. This would be the best player on our defensive line from the very beginning, so we need this guy big time. And honestly, I'm thinking about kicking him to defensive tackle. He would be an over 80 overall. We also have Marcus Brown on the list. He's looking good too. 71 speed, 81 excel. I could kick him to defensive tackle as well. So I'll probably end up kicking Corbett to defensive tackle, maybe keep him at defensive end, and Marcus Brown would kick to defensive tackle. Either way, you know, that's 2 pieces to our defensive line. We're definitely looking to increase the talent at defensive tackle. We have another guy here, 60 speed, 63 excel, 80 strength, 82 power moves, finesse move 73, 76 block shed. If we can get this guy, you know, he can come in, play for us right away. We don't need outside linebackers necessarily, but the 77 overall popped up, so definitely going to go after this guy. Tony Robinson, 81 speed, 80 excel, 80 strength. He probably could kick to defensive end in my system. And then this middle linebacker is a beast. 82 speed, 82 strength, 87 excel. You know, decent attributes across the board. He probably could redshirt, play defensive end in the long run. Probably start at defensive end at some point next season, maybe. I guess we'll find out. But 6'3", 261. That size with 82 speed, 87 excel. That's a potential beast at defensive end. And then we have a lot of cornerbacks. This main guy, Brian Washington, he's a JUCO, 93 speed, 90 excel, 87 man coverage, 81 zone, 82 press. So obviously we need someone with that type of talent. Yeah, that's pretty much the board. I mean, we're looking to focus on defensive end, outside linebacker, cornerback, you know, defensive tackle. We have a kicker on there, but I mean, who cares about that? And yeah, I mean, this is going to be the best recruiting class we've put together so far, which, I mean, the standard isn't very high. The best we've done so far is 115th in the country. But I appreciate y'all watching. If you made it this far, I highly appreciate it. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Later, Essentials.